One day when my 3 children were very small, I brought them to Target and they were fussing. I was overwhelmed and not thinking clearly because my only strategy was to move quickly and get out of there as fast as I could. Get on with the shopping, get out of there. And this strategy was not working. It just made matters worse, as a matter of fact. And by the time we got to the checkout line, we were a noisy, unruly group. The woman behind me in line, however, was my savior that day. She spoke so kindly and gently, although pointedly, to the loudest of the 3 children. And in a soft voice, she said, "Now, why would you want to speak to your mother like that?" And then she went on to have a whole conversation with all 3 children. She made eye contact with each of them. She spoke in an adult voice. She didn't talk down to them. She listened. She honored them, their intelligence, and their need to be heard. I was future-oriented, looking forward to the future moment when we would emerge from the experience all done. But she was in the present. I was focused on scarcity, how ill-equipped I felt, but she recognized the abundance present already in the opportunity to engage and bless the moment. It was a miracle. And we left the store better people. Today's readings are chock full of miracles. This story of the feeding of the multitudes, it appears 6 times in 4 Gospels. Talk about abundance. Matthew and Mark tell it twice each. And that's not all. There are stories of abundance arising from scarcity all over the scriptures. For example, there's Jesus's first miracle at the wedding at Cana. You know, when there's no more wine, and suddenly Jesus makes wine. The story in Exodus about the manna in the desert. How come you made us come out here and starve in the desert? We should have been at the flesh pots of Egypt instead. But there's manna and quail, I believe. Our first reading from 2 Kings, where 100 people were able to feast on 20 loaves of barley and still have leftovers. Then there's Psalm 23, which says, "My cup runneth over." And then there's Luke 6, one of my favorites, which talks about a good measure, pressed down, overflowing, shaken together, running over, put into your lap. And later in the Gospel of John, it says, "I came that you may have life and have it abundantly." Perhaps you can think of others, maybe the prodigal son. And there's lots of miracles just in this miracle story of the gospel today. The miracle of Jesus having compassion on the crowd, kind of like the lady behind me in line, when maybe he just simply intended to have some precious relaxation time. The miracle that he uses something very ordinary, like food and bread, and not much of it, to bring forth God's grace. Sit, sit, stay, sit. Oops. The miracle of a beautiful little puppy getting caught up on my stole. And then reclining on the grass, that little throwaway line. It's kind of like in Psalm 23, when they're reclining by still waters, reclining on the grass. Reclining while eating is something reserved at that time for the wealthy. Jesus treats these people with the honor and dignity of VIPs. And then Jesus reorients the disciples from focusing on scarcity and instead gives thanks for an abundance. I'm just wondering if this text of feasting and abundance stirs up your own curiosity, like it did mine when I started to think of where are the times in my life. Maybe possibilities, like I forgot about that lady until I started to think, well, where have I experienced abundance? Maybe you too have missed times in your life that are coming back to you now. Like the miracle of a random stranger teaching an overwhelmed mother how to pause, to bless, to honor, to recognize abundance. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the poet, writes, "Earth is crammed with heaven. Every common bush afire with God, but only the one who sees takes off their shoes. The rest sit around it and pluck blackberries." So how about you? Where are the abundant miracles in your life?